Here, my name is Mariota and I work here at MyTutor, joining you from London today. And yeah, this is the first event in our very exciting partnership with the careers platform SpringPod, and that's The Future Is Yours, which is a week-long careers festival. It's careers, university and apprenticeships festival for teens and parents. Yeah, we're super excited to have you all here today. Just for a bit of context, in case you've come from SpringPod. So at MyTutor, all of our tutors are from UK unis. We've got thousands of tutors across the country studying all sorts of different subjects with all sorts of amazing different life plans up their sleeves. And today we're going to introduce you to just 3 of them, each with varying experience, and hopefully by the end of today we'd love it if you can come away with a clearer idea of what the value of university is, and how to know what path you should go down and where to look next as well for info and advice. Uni is really wonderful and we want you to know the value of it, while also not we want you to know that there are lots of different things you can do and one of them is uni. So without further ado, Adam, I'd love you to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining tonight. So yeah, my name is Adam. At school, I studied International Baccalaureate, which is kind of like an equivalent to A-level, but you do 6 subjects and they're sort of tailored so that it's manageable. My subjects at the higher level, so I guess what I would have done at A-level were English, economics and French. And I studied my IB, or I sat my A-levels, if you like, between 2014 and 2016. I then went to university to do Sociology and Social Policy at the University of Bath with a placement. I finished there in 2020, and I can talk about the placement, but I worked at the DWP in London, and I've just finished literally this week, actually, my master's in social policy at the University of York.
Amazing, and huge congratulations on submitting and finishing your master's. It's no small feat at all. And Denise, how about you?
Hi, I'm actually from Germany, so our A-levels work different as well, so we also do more subjects. I came to the UK to study. I started with human psychology because I wanted to go into forensics. Once I started uni and I saw everything that was possible, I actually realised I'm in love with the brain, and I sort of jumped ship and went into neuroscience. So then I did a master's and I submitted my PhD earlier this year. Yay. And then now actually, I know, and then I actually work for the University of Birmingham in research, and hopefully we'll be able to do more neuroscience in the future.
Amazing, and another huge congratulations for
Thank you.
An even bigger academic feat. And James, how about you?
Yeah, so unfortunately I haven't finished my even bachelor's yet. So I'm a 2nd year aerospace engineering student at the University of Nottingham. For A-levels, I did maths, physics and French, although I probably assume Adam's French is better than mine because I was awful at it. Hence why I went into engineering to do maths and physics. And yeah, only doing a 3-year course, so I'll probably be finished next year. And really enjoying it. It's good.
Cool, amazing. I feel like aerospace engineering sounds so amazing and so very clever as well. Like you can create planes. Awesome. So now just to kick off, I thought it'd be really nice for each of you to tell us what your favorite thing about your university experience is so far. How about Denise, you go first?
So I didn't actually, go to university for the experience, I think. So when I did my undergrad, a lot of other students said, I'm here for the experience. I was there for the library and the course. But what I really took away was, the personal growth, meeting people from all sorts of different cultures, getting perspectives that I never would have considered otherwise, just by virtue of hearing from people from all different backgrounds, and I just feel like it really helped me grow as a person and just see the world with different eyes, which is really helpful on all levels, really, aside from the academic gain, obviously. So yeah.
And you saying that you hadn't expected to have that sort of growth and experience when you went?
I did not consider that to be a main selling point, but so I just went for the course, and because I felt like I had to do uni to be able to do what I wanted to do. But I do feel that the personal growth aspect actually is a huge part of going to university, because it is a melting pot for people from all over the world, really, especially sort of at postgraduate level. But even at undergraduate levels, people from all around the UK, all around the world, and you just hear so many opinions and stories, and I feel like that just helps you be a really rounded individual at the end of it.
Amazing. I think we should come back to the topic of personal growth at uni in a moment as well. Adam, how about you? What's been your favourite thing about university?
So I was lucky enough to study in Bath. I don't know if anyone on here has visited Bath. I don't think I saw anyone that lives there, but it's a really nice city. And for me, that was really important, because you spend 3 years, for most people at least, in this place if you choose to study at the university itself. So Bath felt kind of like home, and that was really important for me, kind of so that I felt comfortable studying there and going out there. And also, similar to Denise, I was lucky enough to live with, obviously you live with people while you're at university, and you can choose who you live with and sometimes change houses and so on. I live with people from a whole different range of courses, like psychology, people that studied French and Italian, so languages, computing and engineering and sports sciences degrees. And that was really enriching to me and my degree. And then also after university, you see all these people go on to do completely different jobs, and it's been really interesting to know them. And I think that has helped, like Denise was saying, it's helped with my personal growth as well, because we would have really interesting conversations. So it was very enriching, as well as my own degree. I learned a lot about other people's ways of thinking and what they get up to.
Amazing. And again, was that something which you thought you would get out of uni, or was it a surprise?
It was definitely a surprise. I think at school you're obviously a bit younger, and some people, yeah, I just think when you get to university, it seems like everyone really is there to learn. So being amongst that is quite inspiring, actually. It helped kind of drive me and made me feel like I'd made the right decision going to university, because when I arrived, people kind of seemed kind of like myself. They might have had different interests or different courses, but I felt like I belonged there. So that was nice.
That's very nice. And James, how about you? What's been your favourite thing?
I'm going to go along and say that it's probably been a bit of a social aspect for me. So I sort of hinted at before, I was fairly out in the sticks before coming to Nottingham. So again, a massive change coming to a big city. And just the fact that where I live, I think I know about 30 people within about a 2-minute walk. And it's just great to, like, you'll go to these parties and then you'll meet people there, and then you'll make friends with them, and just like you have this huge web of people that you're able to interact with and meet. And definitely in my second year, because obviously my first year that didn't really happen at all, because the police tended to come if that happened. But this year it's been really good just to go meet people, and just you'll be walking down the street and just see like your best mate, have a chat with them, and then you can just put something even on your street group chat and say, anyone will come see this to cinema, which is 2 minutes away from me. And just all these connections, everything's so close. It was really, really good for me to sort of get to experience that.
Amazing. So a pretty similar theme here of the people, the personal growth, and the experience you get, which is special to uni. I'm wondering as well, how about the learning? No, that I mean, I went to university, and that was my absolute favorite thing at the time as well. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear about each of your different subjects. Like, Denise, let's start with you. So what is neuroscience, and what has your learning over the years involved?
So neuroscience really is an umbrella term for pretty much anything that involves the study of the brain and how it relates to cognition, behavior, and whatnot. In relation to other sciences, it's actually in its infancy. It's actually, really, really new. We've only really started with neuroscience in the 1980s, 1990s, when we've started scanning people with MRIs, and that's something that is really exciting to me, because there's still so much there that we don't know. There's still so much there to discover, and it still blows my mind just how complex the brain is, and how everything just has to work at tiny levels, with the neurons firing at exactly this precise moment, in order for everything to just work out well. Yeah, I mean, so university has definitely given me that perspective. I don't think I would have even heard about neuroscience in that respect if I hadn't have gone to university, and sort of discovered throughout my course syllabus all these things about the brain. Then in my undergraduate year 2, I was able to choose modules. So I chose modules that were more aligned with what I was interested in. For me, that was brain and behavior, drugs and behavior, neurophysiology. And then third year, my dissertation was aligned with that. So as far as the learning goes, I just really, really love learning just for the sake of learning, but also learning to feel like I might make a difference one day with everything that I know. So yeah.
Amazing. And so are you saying that you started off with an idea of what you would study, and then you were able to just keep exploring and keep finding new things when you were there?
Yeah, definitely. So I came with a pretty set idea of I'm going to be a forensic psychologist, and I'm still interested in that, but I just found something that I love a lot more, and that's something that the spectrum of information that was offered to me, and being allowed to explore my interests sort of as part of the course, that's sort of really what edged me into the neuroscience. And then I chose a master's on that side, which obviously allowed me to explore it even further, which is then how I got into the neuroimaging. And then my PhD was on neuroimaging, and I really enjoyed it.
Wow, that's so amazing. And so I was going to ask, so again, like you were able to like sort of, you started with one passion, but I guess what we're saying is it's really useful for teens to know that even though it's great if you do have one passion when you start uni, that pretty much all courses, like all degrees, allow you to explore a bit as well, don't they? So you can have one idea of your passion, but there's a bit of leverage, so you don't need to know exactly what you want to do yet.
Yeah, I think so. Now they do loads of different courses. Now they do neuroscience courses just like that, but a lot of psychology courses allow you to choose your modules, or even change in your second year. I think that's the case with sociology as well. I think if you decide in your second year actually you want to jump ship, you can do that with the credits you'd already gained, and I think that's okay. I think you don't have to be 17 and know exactly what you want to do with the rest of your life. I think knowing here's something that interests me and I'm going to go and explore that is fine. And a lot of degrees now allow you to keep those options open at the end of it, and maybe choose a different career path at the end, or it's quite versatile now, I think.
Yeah, and Adam, how about you? Did you know when you started your undergrad that you wanted to do social policy and sociology and politics, or was it a journey of discovery?
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know what sociology or social policy are, you've got sociology, which is about issues in society. So you can look at things like gender, race or ethnicity, disabilities, family, religion, healthcare, and technology. So those are like social issues that you can study, and they're all really interesting. And then you've got social policy, which is kind of close to politics, and you can look at areas like schooling, education, employment or the labor market, healthcare, the economy, and the environment. So those are like policy areas. And yeah, in answer to your question, Mariota, I started studying sociology first, but then actually, like Denise said, from that like umbrella, I was able to specialize and actually change the name of my degree slightly to Sociology with Social Policy. So for instance, where I spent a lot of my degree looking at welfare policies like healthcare and universal credit and benefits and stuff, some of my friends really did degrees that were about issues of race or gender inequality, or what it means to be female versus male, like sex and gender identity issues. So they really came out in a way with a slightly different degree to me, but that was all because we applied for sociology at the start and then we chose our little avenues from there, which I think is, like Denise and probably James would testify to, most degrees are like that nowadays, because you pick your options as you go along from year 1 to year 2 to year 3.
Right. So I guess quite different from choosing school subjects in that way, in that degree subjects, am I right in thinking that they're more like umbrellas with like lots of different things you can study within there, whereas like most of the time when you choose your A levels, there are set texts and set stuff you have to remember.
Yeah, so you can see this on the websites when you look at, for me, University of Bath and then University of York, you look at their courses like sociology or politics, and you can click on the course and you'll see, like year 1, you'll see that more umbrella approach where it's like introduction to sociology or introduction to politics. But then if you look ahead to year 2, you'll see that there's more like choices, and it will say for like one choice you can choose gender, whereas for another choice you can choose race or disability, and then year 3 the same again. So you'll see that it would change from introduction to like then more specific topics, and some universities will have more structure than others, so that's where it's important to kind of, it takes a bit of research, but look at case by case and say, almost look at Bath versus, in my case, York, and see if I did the same course at both places, maybe one would be really structured around gender, because they might have more of like a gender focus at that university, whereas the other one might be more flexible or might have a different focus. So definitely look at those pages side by side if you can.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And James, how about you? What's the difference between engineering and aerospace engineering, and what are those things as well?
Yeah, so just to go off a little bit of what Adam said with the structured approach, my uni is quite a structured one, so I don't have any optional modules in year 2. I have to do all of them, which is a shame in some ways because I really hate electronics. But in 3rd year, I can choose aerodynamics, which is what I want to do. So aerospace engineering is sort of the engineering of airplanes, anything that flies, and spacecraft. So I'm more interested in sort of the aerodynamics of it, so how air interacts. So I could use that to go into something like Formula 1 or designing wings, anything where airflow is crucial, even the shape of buildings or like things on trucks. It influences loads of things. But last week was my project week. So at Nottingham, we have 3 project weeks every year. And this year's task was to design a ground effect vehicle. And that's a vehicle that can only fly in a certain range of height. Otherwise, it'll sort of fall out of the sky and crash. So we've got our preliminary designs based on and made a few models of it. And we think it should work, sort of. We've got to do a few more revisions so it doesn't just fall apart. But that's going really well. And using a little motor and this little tiny little wooden balsa plane that flies. And when you're making these little like wooden planes or like those little like foam ones when you're younger or something, oh, okay, that's easier. Then you're actually trying to do like physics behind it, and you have to do all the cost evaluations and all that sort of thing. That really takes you into how engineering actually works. It's all about trying to make the most cost-effective thing you can. So I'm really enjoying it. We come on more to spacecraft next year, which is probably the cooler aspect of it, but not for me, which is a bit controversial to say. But it's a really good course. And there are other engineering courses. You've got mechanical engineering, which sort of does more a bit like cars and automotive, electrical, chemical, all of which sort of pretty self-explanatory. And I chose aerospace basically because I like planes.
Very good reason. And yeah, when you do come to, say, if you know you want to do a type of engineering or like a type of biological science or something, humanities, social, political, what would you say is a good process if you have these degrees which are quite similar? So like, say if you're at school and you're picking between mechanical and aerospace engineering, what would you say is a good process for working out what is really right for you if you're not sure?
Yeah, so with engineering, the sort of engineering degree, its difference is I'm not doing a Bachelor of Science, I'm doing a Bachelor of Engineering, and that's quite universal. So if I went to apply to, I don't know, let's say McLaren or something to do work in their automotive department, they'd probably be fine with that because engineering is quite broad. And it's not as if, oh, you did an aerospace degree, I'm not going to allow you to work here to do with cars. Or if you did mechanical, there's nothing in aviation. Because all similarly, you've got landing gear and cargo storage, weightings, all that sort of thing. So they're quite universal. I'd probably say have a look at what sort of job you want at the end, and then have a look which one best suits it. And then if you're not sure what you want at the end product, choose the one you think you're going to enjoy the most. So if you're really into F1, probably do mechanical, because you can do something called Formula Student, where you get to go with a bunch of course mates and you build your own. It's like, I would say go-kart, but that's a bit of an insult to it, really. It's like a tiny little Formula 4 car, and it's amazing. Like for an engineer, you race around all the other unis, and it's a really, really good experience. So just choose whatever best interests you, I'd say.
Oh, that sounds so fun. And yeah, I'm interested, James, in like what your like journey of decision making was when you were at school. Like did you always want to go to university? How did you come to make your own decision?
Yeah, so my plan was and still is to be a pilot in the military. But I sent my application off sort of halfway through my A levels, and then realised that it is very, very competitive. And so it simply wasn't an option for me to just sort of try and do it at 17, because I haven't heard anyone who gets in for that role. I mean, obviously, if you're going for that, don't feel off by it. But I then sort of realised, okay, I probably should have a look at university because the UCAS deadline is in a week. So I'm glad I got the feedback sooner rather than later. And then I just saw this in a book, Aerospace Engineering, in some sort of booklet. Found out it's a course that stems from more aeronautical, which is sort of to do a bit more with ships. And I basically went on, I think it's like Unifrog or like one of the lists of university degrees, put it in, and then was really realistic with myself about what grades I wanted to get, or what grades I thought I could get, and looked down the list of what the scores that I'd need. And then this was sort of an outlier where I think it was like 4th or 5th at the time, and then it had a much lower score, so I applied to here in Leicester as my reserve, and then sort of got here essentially.
Amazing. And so if you take yourself back to when you were 17, 18 and deciding, are there any resources that you wish you'd looked at, anything you would do differently going back again?
I definitely would have gone to open days, because I the first time I viewed Nottingham and Leicester campuses was at the offer holder day, so after I'd already sort of accepted an offer, which was, you know, fairly ambitious, but it worked out all right in the end. But I should have just used some more resources. So you're all here listening to this chat, which is really good. But do more stuff like this. Ask people who know. Go to open days. Talk to people at these like big fairs. Get booklets. Just get all the information you can, and just sort of create a bit of research about it, and get a bit of an experience. So see if you know someone who goes to that university, and if they can tell you a bit sort of what the atmosphere is like, because a lot of unis will say, like even course representatives will say, this is the university, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, it's the best thing, I'd choose it over family or love. But if you meet someone who actually goes there, they'll say like, okay, well, this is the social life, so if you're really into clubbing, then this is what you're going to like, or this is sort of the work ethic, these are the people who go here, and you sort of get a more realistic approach to it, I'd say.
Yeah, and how about you, Adam? Like, how did you, would you have done your application process differently the second time round? And I'd love to hear a bit about what your uni experience has been like as well.
So with the first question about, I guess, applying for uni and starting off that, similar to James, I left it late and not intentionally, but I applied for uni through UCAS in the last week. I think I maybe submitted my application 1 or 2 days before, and it was just because I was stressing so much over what to choose. Like I said, my IB or my A-level equivalents were English, economics, and French, and I thought really hard about all of them, and I thought my economics, I think I would fail because I wasn't good enough at the maths. My French, maybe as well, I wasn't sure if I could take that to university level. And English, I was like unsure on. So I was really struggling on all of the subjects. And I was kind of looking through all of the courses to try and find one that worked. And I was so close to taking a year out because I couldn't find anything. But I'm glad that in the end, I kind of spent long enough looking that I found sociology. And when I looked at sociology, I liked the fact that the areas were what I was interested in, like society and issues in society, but also it suited my academic skills. So like my writing was good from English and my reading was good and my analysis was good from economics. So like putting the areas of sociology and my skills together, it was like, oh, this works. So I applied in time for the deadline. But actually what I did do that James wasn't able to do was visit the universities. So I started off at Exeter and then I went to Bath. And Bath is obviously where I ended up. What happened at Exeter was that I thought it was a really nice university and anyone that is interested in going there definitely consider it. But for me personally, it just didn't feel right. And this is why one of my big tips is to look around the university if you can. And James actually said something similar. When I went to Exeter, for some reason, it just didn't feel right. Maybe it was just like it's obviously the south kind of west of England, kind of quite coastal. For me, it felt quite quiet. Whereas then I went to Bath and I just really felt at home there. I felt excited about the prospect of going there. So for me, going and visiting the place was the right way of, once I knew what I wanted to study course-wise, it was how I found the right university.
Right, so course then place. That's so interesting. Like, how did you find out what the skills that were required within sociology were, and that you then realized you had?
That's a very good question. For me, definitely use your teachers. I mean, some of these teachers will have, well, I imagine most of them will have gone to university themselves. So for me, speaking with my English teachers and people that are in humanities, they could give me some of their wisdom in terms of what these courses might involve and how it would work. Like, I didn't understand what assessment would be required, but they said it was mainly essays and written work. So I knew that would suit me as someone that wasn't really confident in taking maths like to the highest level. And also looking at again, go back to those university websites and look at the course pages, because it will tell you a bit about the descriptions. Like it will say if there's a written dissertation or not in the third year. And it would, I think, tell you kind of what some of the assessment methods are. So yeah, for humanities, I think generally they are like 2,000 word essays where you're writing and using sources on the internet. Whereas I think for James and Denise, it's a little bit maybe a mixture of things as well as written work. It can be lab reports and things like that.
Right, so the information which is already out there on the prospectuses and the uni websites, but talking to people as well, right? So teachers, tutors, older siblings. Is there any other kinds of people, if you say if no one in your family's gone to university, and you can't find someone who has the right experience, where would you recommend teens look for advice?
I'd be interested to know from James and Denise, but my top one would again be open days at universities, especially if you can when there's like a course open day. So there's generic open days where you can just walk around the campus, for instance, look at like the facilities, the gym, the sports facilities and like the library. But then also sometimes there are course specific ones where people like students that are on that course and the teachers that actually teach it when you go to university will give presentations about the course, and they're kind of trying to get you to come, but also it's for you to see what the course is like. And obviously you can ask loads of questions there about how it works and if it's right for you.
And James and Denise, perhaps Denise, you go next. Like, what did you find to be the most valuable resources, whether people or written, or different, when you were weighing up your options?
So when I was slightly more organized than the boys. And because I was in Germany at the time, I did utilize the university websites extensively. So sometimes there's a difference. For instance, with psychology, you have some courses that are, psychology, and another one that is human psychology. The difference being that the psychology course might also look at, monkeys or animal psychology. And for me, for instance, I was not interested in that. Also looking at if you need an accreditation at the end of it for your chosen career path, make sure that your course offers that and that at the end you get that accreditation with it. Looking what, opportunities are open to you at the end of it. The University of Birmingham now does a neuroscience course, which is really interesting. But at the end of it, because of the science content, you could also apply for graduate entry medicine. which I think is just, if you're not entirely sure what you want to do, then have a look what your options are afterwards. I was considering biology, but my love for biology sort of is also confined to human biology and sort of ends at photosynthesis. So I was like, I probably don't want to do an entire biology degree. So I knew I wanted to do something that just focuses on human behavior and stuff. And so looking at what the course syllabus contains, or emailing people, I emailed a lot of course content leads and said, what are we studying? What is, destined course syllabus? And they are, really helpful in emailing back. And that really helped me make my decision. And that's sort of what I advise people to do now.
So lots of research and valuable conversations with people where you could, I guess it's useful. I just remember so clearly at school thinking like, I'm so worried that I'll make the wrong, that what interests me now when I'm 17, what if I'm not interested in that in a few years? And I think like what Adam and Denise, what you've both made clear is that degree choice, again, like a degree, you really just need to find the kind of absolute core of your interests, like what is the kind of overall thing that you really care about, and from there that kind of gives you a bunch of choices which you can narrow down and lot adults change courses, as in they change courses in their life and they change paths all the time as well. So I guess I'm taking that pressure away from yourself, that I need to know exactly what I want to do now. Seems to be what you've both done, which is really helpful. And James, how about you?
In terms of where I sort of looked, is the student room is, I mean, it's a bit like Wikipedia, it's not the most reliable thing, but you do sort of get a little bit of a gist for what's going on. But same thing with emailing people. The worst you can get is ignored or a no. That is the absolute worst. There is no risk to you in just emailing generic university like, hi, can you put me in touch with this course representative to talk a bit more about the course, I'm interested. And they probably will, because at the end of the day you're going to be paying for it, so it does them a service to give you this information, and they'll probably put you in contact with the course reps. Just if you're curious, just email it, just reach out to people, because the worst they can say is no.
Very good advice. And when you were working out what to do, did you have any really valuable conversations with either like professionals or people who had done the same courses?
Yeah, I mean, not so much with people who've done the same course. Mine was more because I used to do cadets, and I remember speaking to one of my staff member about this. I picked up this booklet, something called the University Air Squadron, and I was like, okay, this looks kind of cool. Thought it was a bit of, I thought it was like really out of date, and I spoke to him. He's like, oh yeah, I just came back from it. It's brilliant. Do it. I was like, if you've got any doubt, just do it. I was like, oh yeah, cool, I will do. And so that really sort of gave me enthusiasm to do it. So for instance, last Thursday, I think it was, I went up for my first flight, and got paid to do that as well. So, which is like staggering still. I can't quite believe that. But that was one of the most valuable conversations to have with someone, as well as my old DT teacher. I didn't take DT for A level, but design technology, I spoke to him about engineering, because he had a brief career in it, and he put me in contact with a couple of people he knew. I think one of them was a Lotus or something. That's sort of where I'm near from home, and had a little talk with them about it, and especially with the aerodynamics. And I was like, yeah, I really enjoy this. Watched a few YouTube videos on more specific stuff that start to get a bit more university level. I'm like, yep, still interested. So I sort of made my decision based off that.
Amazing. I'm sorry, what is the University Air Squadron?
So it's a reserve unit in the RAF, but if anything were to break out, I can't actually be called up for service. And it aims to give you an experience of what life in the RAF is like. So I'm in the East Midlands one, and through this we get to do visits to different stations, and we get to talk about, get guest speakers to come in, develop social skills, speaking, get flying training, and it's for all the different careers in the military, because like most careers you can do Like if you want to be a lawyer, you can do that in the military. It's not all about flying. So if this doesn't work out, then I go to do engineering there and hopefully work on those aircraft and sort of give you a bit of experience and help you in your application process, really. And for some reason, aerospace is a really popular course for it, and I'm 6 of us at it in my year, so that's really weird. But yes, it's a great experience, and there's a similar one for the Royal Navy and the Army as well, called the OTC and the Royal University Royal Naval Units.
Cool. And so it's just if anyone listening who's very, very helpful if you are interested in any of the any of the defense careers, but even if you're not, I think what James is showing, which is such a valuable trait for any career or for like any planning at all, is just really looking for opportunities, talking to people. And it's amazing how many kind of really handy programs there are for like pre-career opportunities, whether you're at uni or still at school. There are so many adults want to help younger people work out the right career, work out the right uni path. And so if you do just have your eyes open and research and talk to people as James has, you can just help yourself so much and kind of get a bit ahead of the curve as well. And Adam, I'm really interested in what conversations you have had both before your degree and through your degree with other people that have helped you work out your own next steps.
So my next steps are, I'm looking to go into politics. As I said, I started off with sociology, and then I moved across slightly to do stuff with social policy, and that links to politics. Specifically, I'm looking to work for an MP as like a parliamentary researcher or an assistant, or if I'm not too sure about working in Westminster for an MP, I could maybe work for a charity in their like politics or lobbying communication sort of side, because charities obviously have to work with the government to try and secure money. The conversations that I had that shaped that, obviously I spoke at the start about the students that you meet. A lot of it is useful actually seeing the types of jobs they're applying for and why. So I had friends that went into teaching or consultancy or charity sector, startups, and you ask them why they're applying for it and what the job would involve. Some of them are already in these jobs, so you can ask them literally what they're doing in their day-to-day job. For instance, one of my friends works for a charity in London, which is similar to Make-A-Wish, where they grant wishes to terminally ill young children, and she speaks about what that's like working with families and what her role is. So that's been really useful. And then again, lecturers, when you do get to university, they're experts in their field. So if you want to stay in that field, you can speak to them and they can talk to you about staying in academia or using your degree to stay in that sector, but in the private or public sector. So friends and lecturers would probably be my main two sources.
Awesome. So, and I guess what you're saying there as well is there are lots of different sorts of people you can talk to at any time. And Denise as well, just before we go to questions from the floor, are there any particular people who you have found to really help you through your educational journey, whether it's school or uni?
I think the one advice I kind of would like to give for those who've made a choice and are then at university is really make use of the resources that are there. I feel like lots of students don't utilize everything that's there. So I did, lots of programs and lots of courses. I did a writing course and got a certificate. I did a teaching course and a higher education, got a certificate. I had a tutor for essay writing. I did clubs and stuff, and I know it sounds a bit like, being teacher's pet or whatever, but the opportunities are there. There's funding there to do courses, there's options there for placements, and obviously with the universities running those courses, they have links to all these industries, to all these job sectors that will employ people from various different degrees. So making use of those connections is actually a really smart thing to do, because maybe you can take a summer placement and see whether what you think you would like to do after uni is actually what you would enjoy doing. So I think doing placements or volunteering in the sector or something, just to give you a realistic idea of what the job might be like is a good idea. And I think that goes for A-level students as well. If you feel like, you want to go into mental health or work in a school or, work with a neurodiverse population, see if you can volunteer somewhere and get an idea of what that might be like. And maybe you love it and maybe you don't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Completely. And well, on that note, actually, and this isn't even a deliberate promotional blog, this is just because it's a very useful resource in relation to what you're saying, Denise, but SpringPod, who's our educational partner with this event, do virtual work experience. So while you are still at school, you can do exactly all of those things. You can try out different careers and get a taste and see whether it's right for you without having to commit at all. And yeah, my very last question before we go to audience questions is just so everyone knows it's not all it's not all just parties and fun 24/7. What would each of you say has been your most challenging aspect of university? How about you, James?
I touched my project week, and I'm probably going to say that for last year. So I took the project lead in it, and there was someone who just barely showed up and barely did the work, and it sort of left us like really, really struggling. I think it was like in like February or something, this pitch black night, and I was up on my computer at about 3:30 in the morning, still trying to do this like PowerPoint presentation because presenting tomorrow. And then he handed me his slides. Actually, no, he didn't hand me his slides. He just didn't put anything. So I didn't throw him under the bus, but I let the bus sort of roll him over when I sort of just put the numbers in the bottom of the slide and then just click through them slowly whilst he was explaining, because I had sort of lost it by that point. So group work for me, I found really difficult. But this year, I think being in person has made that a lot easier. And obviously I could have gone through the right routes to get it sorted properly. But I for some reason I didn't. I should have done that last year, but it's a different group this year, so that sort of resolved itself. But there are correct routes to go down things, and for me, I found the group working aspect the hardest.
And Adam, how about you?
I was just replying to a question in the chat. So what was it that you wanted me to
Oh, that's okay.
talk about?
What the most challenging aspect of university has been for you?
Yeah, well, this relates to some of the questions, and it was probably time management. You do have to be good at organizing your time, and it's also about, again, if you choose the right course in the first place, this might be easier, but motivation has to come from you. The big change from going to university as opposed to doing A-level or IB or GCSEs is that the teachers aren't there on your case saying, okay, I want this piece of work tomorrow, or well done, and it's not as interactive sometimes, depending on how kind of close-knit your course is. So your motivation really has to come from you. A lot of the time you have to be self-responsible, and that doesn't mean you have to turn up on day one being like that. I certainly wasn't. It takes time to figure out how to do it, but that was a challenge because university is new for everyone, so you have to learn these skills, like organizing your time, being responsible, knowing how long to spend on a piece of work, which is important for when you get a job as well. If somebody asks you to do something, you might be able to spend like a whole month on it and it'd be perfect, but they might need it quicker than that. And same with university, sometimes you could spend a whole month and get a really good grade, but you don't have that time. You might just have a week. So it's about knowing when to leave it and to move on. So yeah, but you do learn in the end. Like all of these things are things that I found tough at the start, and still maybe are tough now, but at least I have more experience in them than I would have done otherwise.
Yeah, totally. And Denise, what was been the hardest thing or the most challenging thing for you?
Yeah, so a bit like Adam said, the personal motivation. I think initially, obviously, the bachelor's was 3 years, and not losing sight of the end goal. And then I've had times during my PhD when I just wanted to quit, and I just didn't want to see it anymore. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't know why I was doing it anymore. There's some real dips in between when I felt like, you know, I had to be really resilient to everything else that's going on, and, you know, really push myself and remind myself why I'm doing it. And I think, you know, final year projects are tough because they tend to weigh 25 to 30% of, you know, your final destination mark, basically. And I think the pressure of that, you know, suddenly you have to produce this piece of work, and it's so important. I found that hard to deal with, and as Adam said, the perfectionism side of it, you know. And I think that's a good step into, you know, professional life as well, knowing when to just, you know, leave it be. That was a tough lesson for me to learn. But I think I've learned it.
Yeah, and I guess I would just add that coming from a few years into job working, that all of those challenges that all of you have spoken about are all things that you get in jobs as well, but like having experience of them at university, like working with other people and managing your time, I feel like almost like the two, perhaps like the two main professional skills in lots of businesses anyway. And so when you are getting that practice in university, you're again, like, you're just really putting yourself in an advantage for when you do come to do it in an actual job. So now, so we've got 9 minutes left. I've got quite a few questions from the audience here. I've seen it, it's really nice that a couple of you James and Adam, have been typing some answers already. Quite a common theme here in our questions from the audience, which I think makes complete sense, is about finance in uni. That's obviously, you know, over the past 8 years or so since they trebled, has been a big, much more of an issue than it used to be in UK education. Although again, slightly different story for you, Denise, because you will have been an international or an EU student. And I'm just, I guess, to try and kind of keep it as broad as possible, like, how do each of you feel about the cost of university, and how has it been for you? Perhaps Denise, you go first.
So I've just done an open day at the university on Saturday, and that is something that I sort of mentioned when I was speaking to prospective students. It is obviously a lot, and I feel like now more so than ever, you have to just make use of all the resources that are there at university and really make that time count. And they are there, and yes, it is a lot of money, but education is never ever going to be wasted. And it's not just the academic certificate you get at the end, it is that personal growth, it is that, you know, for want of a better word, experience of meeting all these different people and learning how to do things, and having access to all these, you know, world leading experts in their field and all these academics and stuff. But it is something that, you know, you have to really want to do. You have to get up and ask these people, you have to go and join these extra courses, you have to go and make that effort. So I feel like how much value you're going to get out of your degree now is up to you to some extent, how much you're going to get out of it, if that makes sense.
And what do you think, Adam?
Yes, I think if people are asking, maybe international students, people that are thinking of coming from abroad to the UK, I understand it is more money. A UK student, I think, pays like £9,000, whereas internationals probably pay £30,000. So it's a lot of money, like for everyone, it's a lot of money. If you're coming from abroad, then I think the reputation of UK universities are good. I spoke in one of my answers that obviously America, Canada, other countries in Europe have good degrees, but for my master's, for instance, there were people from Indonesia and the Philippines that came to the UK to do social policy because it looks so good, and then they can go back to their countries and work for the government because they've got a UK university on their CV. And yes, it is money, it's a lot of money, but to be blunt, some of these jobs that you might want to do, like for instance, me working in politics for an MP, you might need a degree, you might not. Obviously go to the talk on apprenticeships. Is that tomorrow, Mariota?
It's tomorrow, yes.
Yeah,
I'll speak more about that at the end.
Yeah, if you want another route without paying as much money, apprenticeships is one way to do it. So check out that talk tomorrow. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of these jobs do need like you need to go to university to get there in the first place. And then once you're there, like the amount you're paid should kind of reflect the fact that you've had to put all this money into your education. So yeah, if you do an undergraduate degree, you might be able to earn a little bit more money, and same with a master's and a PhD on top, because they know, these employers know that you've spent all this time at uni, like learning rather than earning. So you should earn that back over time, and you obviously can get grants. Well, you do get grants so that you can. It's affordable for students.
And then James, what's your view on student fees and finance?
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot. I think the main point is that with student finance, how you sort of go about paying it back means that a majority of people won't pay everything, which sort of, it makes it a little bit better, but it is frankly a lot. And even with just not the tuition fees, just sort of the cost of being a university student, especially nights out, because all it takes is a few extra drinks and you're already over budget. And it's sort of just about being able to have good finance management, and sort of you learn very quickly. You sort of have to food plan. You have to do all these different things through your university career, I guess, because otherwise you sort of it starts to get in a bad habit, and you've got to learn, okay, well, I can either do this or this, but I can't do both. And because there's only so many times you'd be like, oh, can you send me a bit extra money or do this? You have to sort of just make a decision. This is what I like to do, or do you not this week? I do have to have beans on toast 3 times because I can't really afford the other things. So if you plan properly, it shouldn't really happen. But obviously, there are always things that come up that are unexpected.
And on that, okay, all of you have worked as MyTutor tutors. How would you say that, like, do you recommend working through your degree? Like, what's your view on how much, if at all, having a student job helps you in your degree?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's helped massively. It started off as just a way where I could just actually go and have go out for a meal at some point in the month, but that it's sort of slowly evolved into be more of like a substantial thing. So it enables me. So I brought my car up to uni, so it means I can go home a bit more often, and it enabled me to do that. And I think most people I know now have a student job. I'd say like the majority have some sort of job that are all my mates. And so university excursion is technically another job. So yeah, got 2 jobs, but they both really help.
Yeah. And Adam and Denise, would either of you have anything to add to that in terms of managing your finances and working at uni?
So I've pretty much worked part-time throughout my entire university career. So initially in my undergraduate degree, I pretty much had every type of student job you can imagine. McDonald's, bar work, working at Boots in a pharmacy. And then I started to try and find jobs that actually sort of aligned with my subject a little bit. So I would get the experience alongside. To me, working at MyTutor has actually been helpful because it's given me that evidence of teaching. I've been able to teach at university level. I've been teaching statistics and stuff, and it's something I can put on my CV and say, well, I have actually had that experience of doing it. Lesson planning, you know, things like this for the school side of it. Obviously it paid, but it also gave me valuable experience of doing it and confidence when dealing with students. So I think this has been a really good experience for me.
Awesome. And I guess, and again, in the conversation of apprenticeship or work versus going to uni, I guess all of you are great examples of your degree really really being like the beginning of your longer journey, and it being a subject that you really love and you all have like real reasons for doing it, while also having been able to discover a lot and kind of have your minds opened in a way that you hadn't predicted when you started your degrees. Would you say that's right? So yeah, so I guess it just because we had a question on university versus apprenticeships, and yeah, and to which I would also just add that tomorrow at 5 o'clock we have another webinar called Apprenticeships: What, Why and How, with 2 current apprentices and someone from Multiverse, which is a really cool apprenticeships platform, so you can find more about that there. In terms of resources, we had a couple of questions here on personal statements and making your applications. We have a free ebook called the MyTutor Guide to University, which is, I'll right after I stop talking, I'll link that in the chat, and it's also on the same website that you would have used to sign up for this event. So again, that's just like a big list of resources for finding out about courses, uni, personal statements, and UCAS. And yeah, I guess just as we finish off, in a sort of one sentence, what would your number one piece of advice be to someone considering university? Adam?
My one for this is do what feels right at the time. Have an idea of where you want to go and check that you're not going to close any doors by not doing the right thing. Like if you want to go into medicine, for instance, there are some doors you need to keep open, like doing a degree related to that. So have an idea of where you want to go and check that those doors will stay open. But other than that, just do what feels right for you at the time. You can't predict the future, and everyone changes their minds, including myself, loads of times. So just yeah, just do what feels for you at the right, like now, and I'm sure that things will work out as you go along. Nice one. And James?
Mine's gonna be basically take every opportunity you can. So if you like, again, throw out an email. If a teacher says, okay, come on to this, there's a help session, I don't really understand it, just go along, because I mean, the worst case scenario, you miss out on like scrolling through Instagram, chatting with your mates, or playing a game of football. That'll basically be the worst consequence, where you might actually understand topic, and it'll be the law where that'll be what's on the test. So just take every opportunity you can, just say yes to things, and really try and put yourself out there and make yourself as appealing as possible, especially if you try and go for Oxbridge or something, or that's not the be or end, or if you want to go that route, take every opportunity you can to make yourself look the absolute best you can on paper and in person.
Amazing advice. And Denise?
What the other two had said, and also just to remember that education in university is a privilege, and if you are there, you kind of owe to yourself to make the most of it, for your personal journey and sort of everybody around you, especially your parents or your guardians or your family and your friends who are supporting you with that. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all of you guys so much. Such